The 1970s were a golden age for R&B. Soulful voices, lush grooves, and truth-telling lyrics stirred something deep in the culture. But not every track made it to the airwaves. Some were silenced, too raw, too bold, too ahead of their time. From Marvin Gaye's protest whispers to Betty Davis's untamed fire, these are 10 banned R&B songs of the 70s you've probably never heard. Number 10, You Can't Miss Nothing That You Never Had. By Ike and Tina Turner, the storm that stations refused to touch.
All of my friends are asking me why.
Released in 1971 during their peak on United Artists. This track wasn't just a breakup song. It was a barely veiled firestorm of rage and control. Tina's delivery drips with defiance, as if she's clawing her way out of something much deeper than a relationship.
And nothing's what you never had.
Radio stations in the South flat out refused to spin it, citing aggressive tone and unsuitable themes. What they really meant was that it was too black, too female, and too free. You can hear it in the opening bars. A scorched blues guitar riff, then Tina's voice cracked and raw. It was truth dressed as soul, and that scared people. While it didn't chart high, the song became a whispered classic in live shows where Tina would tear it open on stage. Today, it's a haunting prelude to the emancipation she would later claim with What's Love Got to Do With It? If that was fire in a bottle, what's next is ice with a slow burn. Number 9, If I'm in Luck, I Might Get Picked Up by Betty Davis. Funk too wild for the airwaves.
Luck just might get picked up.
Betty Davis came roaring out of the underground in 1973 with a sound and a sexuality that scared the industry stiff. Signed briefly to Just Sunshine Records, this song was her declaration of power. A woman prowling the night, owning her desire, daring anyone to stop her. And the FCC tried.
I'm crazy, I'm wild. I'm mad.
Stations pulled it after just a few spins, citing its suggestive content and inappropriate female posturing. But that bass line, slippery and free, and her vocals, part growl and part invitation, made the band feel more like an advertisement. You couldn't play this at church, but it was church for the bold. Betty never got mainstream love back then, but today,
You might pick me up.
she's a high priestess of funk, sampled by Erykah Badu, adored by Prince, and rediscovered by a generation tired of pretending. And the next song, it was so provocative, even Motown said no. Number 8, Let's Get It On, unreleased version, by Marvin Gaye. Too sensual even for Marvin.
Got you, baby. Come on. Oh, come on.
The released version of Let's Get It On became one of the most iconic slow jams in music history. But buried in the Motown vaults is a darker, grittier original take, recorded in 1972, drenched in desire and stripped of metaphor. It was too much for Berry Gordy's famously image-conscious empire.
Baby, no. And giving your...
This unreleased version, cut during a late-night session at Hitsville West, didn't use innuendo. It was pure, aching lust. No violins, no polish. Just Marvin's breathy falsetto, raw electric guitar, and lyrics that made even veteran producers blush. Motown refused to release it, insisting on rewrites and lush orchestration to soften the edges. Marvin compromised, but never forgot.
Get it on, baby. This minute. Oh, yeah.
He slipped pieces of that original into live shows, letting the faithful hear the version that was never meant for radio. It stayed locked away for decades, only surfacing in deluxe reissues and bootlegs. A reminder that even Marvin had to fight for his truth. Coming up next is a song so fierce, it got a woman blacklisted. Number 7, Stepping in Her I. Miller's Shoes by Betty LaVette, banned for telling too much truth. Released in 1972 on Atlantic Records, this track was written by the legendary Van McCoy. But it was Betty LaVette who breathed fire into it. The song tells the story of a prostitute's fall from grace, trading dreams for survival. It was narrative soul. Too narrative, apparently. Major stations balked. Too explicit, they said. Too sad. Some even called it immoral. What they meant was that a woman was telling a story they didn't want heard. Betty's voice doesn't plead. It confesses. Over a slow-burning funk groove, she sings the life of a woman who once danced in high heels and now walks streets with broken pride. It was too real, and radio rejected it. It sank commercially, but soul purists never forgot. The track became a hidden gem, resurrected years later when Betty made her long-overdue comeback in the 2000s. Up next is a song banned not for its lyrics, but for the voice that sang it. Number 6, Cold Turkey by Lenny Williams, the addiction anthem radio wouldn't touch.
Can't see no future.
Before his smooth ballads with Tower of Power, Lenny Williams dropped this solo single in 1974 that tackled something far from romantic. Withdrawal, but not from drugs. From her. Cold Turkey used the language of addiction to describe heartbreak, with lines so visceral they made DJs nervous. Sweating, shaking, calling out her name. It didn't sound like a metaphor. It sounded like a man breaking down in real time.
Can't see nobody.
ABC Records released it quietly, hoping it would find a niche. Instead, it found controversy. Some black radio stations pulled it after community leaders complained it glorified dependency. White stations wouldn't touch it at all. But for those who did hear it, Cold Turkey became a cult favorite. The stripped-down rhythm, the growling horns, Lenny's wailing vocals. It was emotional realism before that was a trend. If you've ever cried alone in the dark, this one hits hard. Now, if you think that was intense, wait until you hear what landed the next artist on a no-play list for nearly a decade. If these banned R&B deep cuts are hitting you with goosebumps or showing you just how deep the 70s really went, give this video a like. It helps us keep unearthing the tracks the world tried to silence. And keep watching. We've still got 5 songs to go, and what's coming next just might blow your mind. Number 5, Get Up, Get Out by The Persuasions, blacklisted for protest soul.
It's something. Don't let the days of your life pass by. You need to get up.
Released in 1974 during the post-civil rights era. This a cappella bombshell from The Persuasions never made it past regional airwaves. Why? Because it wasn't just a song. It was a call to arms. It opens with a preacher's cadence, telling young black men to rise above poverty and prison traps.
You act as though you know something I don't. Do you have any suggestions? Cause every job
They want your hands cuffed, not raised. The lead sings. It hit too close to home in cities like Birmingham and Detroit, where racial tension simmered. The Persuasions weren't slick. No strings, no synths. Just 5 voices and the truth. It didn't sit well with program directors who wanted safe soul. Despite being pulled from playlists, the song lived on in underground circles.
is something. How will you make it if you never even try? You need to get up.
Played at college rallies, civil rights marches, and eventually sampled in 90s hip-hop. They tried to bury it, but the streets never forgot. And the next one? It was banned by its own label. Number 4, Tell Me a Lie by Sammy Joe, buried for sounding too black. Here's the strange truth. This song wasn't banned for what it said, but for how it sounded. Released in 1975 by Sammy Joe, a white southern singer with a soulful voice, Tell Me a Lie, was a gorgeous, aching ballad written by Barbara Wyrick.
You'll be glad to drop me home, 'cause it's on your way.
But its rich R&B phrasing and gospel-style delivery caused confusion and backlash. Some country stations refused to play it, assuming it was too urban. Meanwhile, R&B stations dismissed it, thinking it was an imitation. It fell through the cracks of a racially coded radio system. Even DJs who loved the track admitted they were told not to spin it. It was quietly shelved by the label after modest success in the South, despite powerful performances on tour.
Tell me just one more lie, you'll be back one day.
But in later years, collectors and crate diggers unearthed the track, calling it one of the best soul ballads no one ever heard. Next up is a song so steamy, DJs were fired for playing it. Number 3, Show Nuff by Sly, Slick and Wicked, the groove that crossed the line.
So you think you love him, girl, you know you love him.
And in 1973, this Cleveland trio dropped a slow jam that oozed with seduction. Show Nuff wasn't crude, it was cool. But the way it lingered, the breathy vocals, the candlelight bass groove, it gave censors the chills.
I felt we could make it, I really felt we could make it, girl, but
some radio stations outright refused to play it, calling it too sexually charged. In at least 2 southern cities, DJs who spun it during afternoon slots were reprimanded or let go. One program manager even claimed it was a record for the bedroom, not the broadcast. What's wild is, it never says anything explicit. It just feels like velvet slipping off the shoulder.
Man, why did that girl do you like that? I don't know. Man, I've seen time.
Sly, Slick and Wicked never hit it big nationally, but this track became a favorite in underground Quiet Storm sets and is still sampled in lo-fi R&B playlists today. And coming up next, the number 2 song was never officially released because its writer feared what would happen if it was. Number 2, Mother's Prayer by Donny Hathaway, a song silenced by fear. Donny Hathaway had a voice that could heal, but in 1906, during a troubled period marked by battles with schizophrenia and a strained label relationship, he recorded a duo called Mother's Prayer. It was never officially released. Why? Because it was too honest. The song was a haunting reflection on Black motherhood, violence, and systemic injustice. Donny sang from the perspective of a mother begging God to keep her child alive through the night. No metaphors, no veils, just raw, trembling truth over a somber Rhodes piano. Atco Records reportedly shelved it immediately, calling it too dark, non-commercial, and too political. Even within the label, execs worried it would ignite controversy.
heaven lies by our feet. So
Only a low-fidelity bootleg survived, passed around by fans, studied by soul historians, and cited by artists like Bilal and D'Angelo as sacred ground. Now we've reached number 1, a track so controversial it vanished for nearly 50 years. Number 1, Am I Black Enough for You? By Billy Paul, the anthem they tried to erase. Released in 1972 as the follow-up to the massive hit Me and Mrs. Jones, this track should have elevated Billy Paul into even greater stardom. But Am I Black Enough for You wasn't a love song, it was a challenge. Written by Kenny Gamble and Leon Huff, the track is a fierce declaration of cultural pride. Billy Paul didn't just sing the lyrics, he dared you to answer them.
better make up your mind, we're gonna leave you behind.
Am I black enough for you? Not just a question. A confrontation with respectability politics, assimilation, and erasure. Mainstream radio wasn't ready. Stations pulled it. Some refused to play it at all. Critics called it militant. CBS, fearing backlash, quietly stopped promoting it altogether. Billy Paul later said he felt punished for standing up and speaking out. But the song refused to die.
I could take it more if I could spend it one time.
In the years that followed, it lived on in quiet revolutions, sampled, covered, and revered by artists who knew exactly what Billy had been fighting for. It's more than a song. It's a question that still echoes in the air today. From hidden ballads to band anthems, these tracks weren't just music. They were messages, bold truths wrapped in rhythm that the system tried to silence. But soul always finds a way. Thanks for taking this journey with us. Subscribe to keep the groove alive and never miss our next stroll through the stories behind the songs. And if you're ready to keep digging, check out our next video. The 10 flop R&B songs from the 70s that turned into hits. Click the end screen and let the soul keep spinning.